Okay. I'd like to welcome everybody to the September 8th regular meeting of the Hood River White Salmon Bridge Authority. We'll start out with a call to order. Mike Fox is here. I see Arthur Babbitts is here. Grant Polson is here. Catherine Thomas is on the phone. I don't see Nate Duvall, and we understand Jake Edwards will not be with us today. Going on the Washington side, Jake Anderson has not called in yet. Eric Wilson is in attendance. Doug Gibson has not called in yet. Mark Flaming is here and present. And Ben Berger is here. So we do have a quorum. And we'll proceed forward. Is there any modifications, additions to the agenda? If not, could I have a motion to accept the agenda as is?
I so move.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, passes. Let's go to approval or correction of minutes from last board meeting, August the 25th. Does anybody have comments on the meeting notes?
I move that we accept the meeting notes as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you for that. Public comment, 3 minutes per person, 30 minutes max. There's nobody in the room. Anybody online? I don't see anyone. So with that, we'll keep moving along. Executive reports, the co-chair report. I do have a couple of things maybe to say on this one. My personal focus for the next little bit is to make sure that we get our design effort kicked off properly and we're productive on the ramp up. We're real close to turning Kiewit loose. I just want to make sure that it's a nice, smooth ramp up and we get things moving. We got 21 months to get a lot of work done. The other thing that I'm really focused on is I want to make sure that our design effort is baking in the need to design to the funds that we anticipate we're going to have. It is absolutely critical that what we did the last month, 2 months, we got to keep that momentum going, finding where we can streamline things down, make things a little simpler, not taking any quality out of the project, but just reducing the cost wherever we possibly can. That gives us the best chance of proceeding into the next phase in 21 months into construction. So I'm going to be really focused on that. The third thing, and I'm glad Christie's online, but I know Kiewit's all over it, is permits. So that's the next big push along with design is we've got to get the necessary permits behind us. I think Christie's going to give us the update on the ROD, FEIS, and so on. And I think we've got some good news coming there, but now it's permits. And lastly, even though we're a little early yet, I think we as a group, but probably budget and finance as the point, we've got to build a strong case for pay on invoice. And I think it's not too early to start that. The worst thing could happen is that we get full funding and we start down and we get design done and we haven't figured this piece of it out. And it's not to say that we can't do it, but it just increases the workload. So those are the 4 things that I'm kind of focused on. And I'm sure everybody else has got their own list, but this is big picture stuff. Let's go to project director report.
All right, thank you. We had a good meeting actually this morning with FHWA on the travel MOAs. They have gotten together on their side with the Oregon division and are going to allow the Umatilla MOA to basically move forward as it was back in February, I believe it was, when we had an agreement with Umatilla on how we were going to proceed. There's some minor edits that we made, but it's basically allowing them to use the MOA as their payment justification and not have much more than that. So it's the way similar to how WashDOT handled it in a previous agreement that they had done. So FHWA has gotten comfortable with that. So that should allow that MOA to move forward for signature quickly. So we're hoping in the next month, 2 months, we'll have the Umatilla signed and be moving forward with that. We also identified, one of the other key activity, which is the communications plan. We're working on setting up a meeting with CRIPVIC and the fishers from the fishery managers from the 4 treaty tribes to have a meeting on that communications plan so that when we get to construction, it's coordinated on how we're going to inform the fishers that whether the access areas are open or during season. So I think 2 important things. I think that getting that first one signed, as we've said for a while now, will work towards getting the others to move forward a little faster. So we're excited to have positive news and actually be heading towards the direction of signature now. So
Have you briefed James at all about that communication?
we have not yet. No.
I think you should.
Sure.
And
Once we know exactly what it is, we'll update him.
well, even before, I would sit down with them and talk them through the draft.
Sure.
This all assumes that construction is going to go to Kiewit, but I think getting his input in there, who should be the prime contract coming in or contact coming in on that communication.
We'll do that. We continue to get the appraisals. I know this is taking longer than we thought. They're getting to the final steps of the fair market value. They had some back and forth with the OPRD on how to include some of the actual physical features that will remain, like the generators and the gas pumps and things, and how to take that into account. All of it eventually ends up rolling into best use of that property. So we should in the next few weeks get that first fair market value appraisal back, and then we can take that and make some decisions on how to move forward with the 6F impacts to the port properties. So we'll continue to move that forward. We also had a conversation this morning with the Oregon division on our CDS funding. As you know, that was previously requested from ODOT and WashDOT to include that in the infra money, mostly around how it was the states were the direct recipient. If we were able to include it with the infra, then the authority would be direct recipient. Because of in working through the infra grant agreement, the timing that we think that's going to take, we've asked to separate those back out, which means CDS funding will now have to go through ODOT and they will be the direct recipient and we will be a subrecipient, which means that ODOT will have a little more oversight on that CDS funding, which has pretty narrow uses for it. I would say narrow, they were very defined uses for it. So FHWA is working on that. They've had some preliminary conversations with ODOT. It sounds like they're making progress on moving that forward. That is some of the last money that we'll be using through 1B. It is part of our 1B funding plan, but it's towards the tail end. So we've got time there to get that worked out. But we're encouraging FHWA to try to get that done within the next month or two. So
do they take a cut for doing that?
It will be part of their service agreement where we will have to pay for the level of effort that they do in relationship to it.
Okay, but it's not, so ODOT frequently has an automatic, 8%, 12%.
Not that we have been made aware of that they.
Could you check on that?
I'll check on that.
Because they tend to do that as a matter of course.
Yep.
8 or 12%.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah.
Wow.
With County and with the city, we've dealt with this repeatedly.
I'll find out on that. The Washington funding agreement came back this morning, so it was making it through. I don't know if it's made it to Mike yet.
We'll print it out for you to sign before you
Okay.
leave today.
So you will have
Good.
it for signature today, so that'll finalize the $40 million agreement with WashDOT and give us access to that funding. So that is one of our main funding sources, along with the 20 million in the Oregon Lottery bond that we have access to now. So that's the main funding sources for the next phase. The bridge monitoring work is progressing. We're working through some of the side things that happen with it as far as where we're going to place it. We had a good conversation with Mount Adams Fruit. It looks like unless something's changed in the last days, it looks like we're going to be able to install one of the total stations up on top of their building. It's high enough to actually get a good line of sight to the bridge. Will be a much more
Pretty secure.
much more secure location. So Kiewit is working with Mount Adams to finalize that. And then the other location will be out on the point of SDS's property where they're kind of a boat thing there. Again, another very secure location. So that's starting to come together. I think they're anticipating late October, November, everything will be up and running and functional. And there are some side effects. There are some secondary agreements, I'll call them, that we need to work through. So we're working through those as far as maintenance and access to go in and check on stuff and things like that. So we're working through those agreements.
I had two questions about that. No concerns about movement in the building or vibration for the total station. And then the second question goes to the Army Corps and ground disturbance that kind of shows up in the right away that came up when we were talking about total stations, I think.
So I'll answer, and James, you tell me if I mess this up, but I'm assuming that when Kiewit goes up, they're working with Mount Adams right now to get up there and do some test stuff. I'm assuming that all is going to tell you whether or not there's any vibrations, and they'll figure out a way to brace it so that takes that out. That was kind of initially what I've heard from them. And then as far as ground disturbance, building, no, right? Because we're not tearing anything up. On the ground, on the end of the SDS property, there's actually some concrete blocks that we're going to be able to tie to, so there won't be any ground penetration there. So we think there'll be minimal amount of effort that we need to do. One of the reasons in talking to Mount Adams was we were looking at potentially having to drill a hole, put a foundation in, which then would have ground disturbance and would need.
And that's where it kicks back.
Yeah, would need more.
Okay.
That's how I think we've minimized or eliminated that need. But as long as these two locations work out, we'll be good.
Okay.
Christy, do you want to update everyone on, is she still on? Oh, there she is. You want to update everyone on Rod?
I sure will. Let me share my screen if that's okay. This is if you're seeing this, let's see, that's one more button. There we go. This is a list of items that the board asked me to put together some months back. So we could track our progress moving forward, and green checks are things that are complete. So the real update is that we've gotten through the cooperating agency review, and the last time I think I mentioned we thought we had all 4 agencies, but it turned out that some communication directly to FHWA that we hadn't tracked on until the following Monday turned out that the Army Corps asked for a 30-day extension. And FHWA granted that. So we have one agency comments or review period is still open. It's probably the best way to put it, for 2 more weeks till almost 3 weeks till September 24th, so Wednesday.
Can they, Christy, this is Mike, question for you. Can they request a second extension?
Yes. And it's up to FHWA to say yes or no. And we certainly hope that they would see reason to say, well, you had 60 days, it's only 90 pages. But
Yep.
We're not in charge of that. We'll do our best to be persuasive.
Okay.
One thing that did change in the last few weeks, which is a real benefit to this process, is since early this year, we've been aware of a review of the document at the Washington, D.C. Department of Department of Transportation Secretary level that was pending for the document with no duration for that review and really not a process. That has gone away, and FHWA has confirmed that that is no longer needed. And that is a huge relief to have on this schedule. So we made one big step forward and another one a little bit back. What we're doing right now is we did receive comments from the Bureau of Indian Affairs at the conclusion of their review period. They are minor comments, mostly having to do with the way that we wrote, we longhand-ed the tribal names throughout the document, and they suggested that we move back to acronyms, and we're fine with that. So that level of sort of changes, they don't change the substance of the document. We also got some refinements from FHWA's legal department on some of the language. So we've made those comments, responded to them in the document, and we're doing an internal QC. So the document, probably by Thursday or Friday this week, will be ready for final review by FHWA. And we're hoping that they will take that and do that review before we actually get to the Army Corps to the end of their review period. So when we get to September 24th, we'll know whether we can sign or if we have to do a few more response to comments or not.
I'm sure you're encouraged. I'm sure
Okay.
you're encouraged them to do that, right?
We are. And
Aaliyah mentioned that she's going to work on doing a concurrent review. So
yeah. So we're hoping that September 24th, we have a document that's ready to sign and there's no one else waiting for anything. That's what we're working towards. If that doesn't happen, then we'll need a couple more weeks to respond to whatever the Army Corps provides, maybe a week or, well, we haven't seen the comments, but let's see. And then we'll have a signature in October. So that's where we stand. We might slip it in the end of the month. We'll work on that and maybe we'll be doing it October, but there's no big reviews left outside of getting comments from the Army Corps.
one of the things, just so everybody's aware, that this reminded me of is we will give Kiewit a notice to proceed to go to 60% with a stipulation that as soon as we receive the rod, that we will give them the notice to proceed to go to RC. And that is simply that you cannot move to final design until you have your rod. So we will do a phase start on.
Right.
So we've negotiated for everything. However, we want to, if something would happen, we want to make sure we do this right. And we'll only go to 60 if something would happen with the rod. So
So your trip out to DC next week, are you incorporating some version of that slide into your discussion?
document, but we're not going to make it. But yes, we will be informing them how close we are.
You guys decide, but that red one where you've taken out that home office review, if you will.
Yeah.
That's not a bad one to put out there. Make sure we don't get scratched.
I don't want to bring it up too much.
Okay,
Let it go.
hey, I want to come back to you, Mike, but we've got our lobbyists on the line and they have a short fuse. So let's go to Jake. Tell us some good news, my friend.
Short fuse.
Well, I always have a short fuse, but we just have a short time period today. So we're excited that representatives from the Bridge Authority, Jake Okenberg with Summit Strategies, your federal lobbyist. Hello, all. We're excited that representatives from the Bridge Authority will be out in DC next week. We have got Catherine and Eric coming out, and we, of course, have Dan and Mike Shannon. We will be meeting with the entire delegation on both sides of the river. We will also be meeting with the U.S. Department of Transportation twice, both with their Build America Bureau, which is in charge of TIFIA, as well as with the folks at FHWA and the Office of the Secretary. The main message for the visit, which has been discussed with the comms committee and your government relations team and those that are going, is that we have tremendous momentum, as you all know, at the state and local level. We have strong support. We have funding from both states, and we need the federal government to come in and support this BIP request, which will allow us to continue apace and move from design into construction as early as 2027. And so we need them to be our partner in this. And in short, support our full ask for the bridge investment program. So I'm happy to take questions, give more details on that, but I think our timing in general is very good. As you all know, we go regularly to meet with folks, but for two reasons, I think things are lining up quite nicely for this trip. One, the Department of Transportation is actively reviewing BIP applications, both FY25 and 26. And on a similar note, this is exactly the time when we want our congressional delegation to be following up with the US Department of Transportation on our behalf to support this. Very quick aside, for those of you who haven't heard, the Oregon congressional delegation led by Senator Merkley, along with Senator Wyden and Congresswoman Dexter, did send in a support letter for our FY26 BIP application. The Washington congressional delegation led by Senator Murray is finishing theirs hopefully this week or early next. They will be sending those directly to Secretary Duffy. So it was not at all necessary for them to have those included with the application when it was due last month. Just threw a lot at you in a couple minutes. Happy to answer further questions.
The only suggestion I would have to you, Jake, and I talked to the guys here a little bit, when you compare us to other projects in the area, they've seen or about to see very large increases, as we did about a year and a half ago. And I think there's a story there that we need to be ready to tell, that we didn't just accept that increase. We've been working actively since then to engineer out cost on the project. And we're talking about, going to steel, less piers, going to the foundations, reducing steel drilled shafts by roughly 50%. There's some real actions that the project has taken since our last visit out there to try and contain costs. We're not just sitting back and letting things happen. We're really actively trying to control it. And if I was somebody on the other side, and I would remember that we had a big cost increase the last time we went out, I'd want to hear what is the project doing to try and contain that. So hopefully your message includes those kinds of things.
Yeah, Mike, I think that's really helpful. Depending on the office, they may or may not decide to interrogate us about the total cost and what goes into that. And regardless, I think your point is well taken. And it fits nicely with our narrative that this is a professional operation that is taking their job very seriously, hand in hand with the momentum that we have. You guys are meeting every day to make sure it's the right design at the right price and done in an efficient way. So I think your point's well taken, Mike.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Ben.
Is there anything on the administrative cost side that we can speak to that any actions that we've taken that, are helping contain the project cost?
We're all volunteers.
Yeah, I mean, 12 free salaries.
Well,
I think
we stood up a new government agency that has 0 employees, no benefits.
I think some of the things you have done is you've put the right policies and procedures in place, and you're continuing to do that to make sure that you're oversighting the project according to federal requirements. So one of the things that in approving all these policies that you've been approving
Mhm.
is to make you compliant with the CFR and federal regulations. So
Mhm.
I think those are some of the things that you're doing, as well as, just generally participation in the CSRAs and the risk assessments and managing and developing procedures for tracking trends, tracking optimization of the design, having your committees broken up so that you're breaking it down into smaller pieces that you're involved in. I think, yeah, from what you should be doing as far as setting policy and procedure, you're doing the things you need to make sure the project's being ran economically.
I think that it's sort of a modification of what Mike said a couple of minutes ago. I think that we have some pretty good evidence that with this project team, we've been able to efficiently or effectively respond to changing circumstances. It's more than, hey, we woke up and decided that maybe it would better build a cheaper bridge than a more expensive bridge. It's that when we got new geotechnical information, discovered that the piers had to be different, changed design to make longer spans, looked at steel. As steel prices have changed, as concrete prices have changed, it adjusts plans accordingly. So I think it's more the flexibility and the willingness and ability to respond quickly that I would focus on rather than just saying that, hey, we're trying to keep it cheaper.
I think the other big difference is, in general, we're looking at a plan B, plan C, plan D. We're looking out ahead, and what happens if this, we're ready with this. And that's a very proactive way of managing projects this big. And not everybody does that.
I just worry about the discussion becoming one of, well, we'll give them 2/3 of what they asked for, and then they'll figure out how to do it for 2/3. And it's like, that's not
Yeah,
what the
that's
discussion
not-
is about.
No, that's not what we're
Right.
trying to say. We're trying to keep the lid on the can.
Well, I think what you're saying is, the design process is a process of learning and discovery of what your project does. And
Right.
what we have is a broad spectrum of people that are helping and involved so that we can use those resources to adapt as that information comes available. That's what,
Well said.
and I think you're right. We demonstrated that
Right.
in several
We have some examples.
EAP points.
Perfect. Eric, we'll bring you on the trip. Good job.
Amen.
Okay, thank you. While we're on government relations, Dan, I see you've called in. Anything to report?
Nothing too relevant for you all, just a quick update that normally we'd be in the interim. We happen to be in the middle of a special session as they are trying to pass a smaller transportation package largely focused on operation and maintenance. The House approved that last week. We are awaiting a Senate decision, which has been delayed because of health issues with Senator Gorsuch. It is presently scheduled to be considered by the Senate next week, assuming that he is ready to go. Again, doesn't directly affect our project, but obviously we continue to monitor the transportation space and relationship, particularly as it relates to ODOT's ability to continue to deliver the service they need to. So that's the big news in Oregon. We'll continue to monitor any developments that would relate to the lottery funding and our allocations, but happy to answer any questions. That's the quick update.
What's the issue with Senator Gorsuch?
Yeah, Senator Gorsuch had I believe it was back surgery a few weeks ago, and has had some complications as a result of that surgery that has not allowed him to be on the floor to
Would it
cast
be
the vote.
appropriate for us to send him hey, we're thinking of you
Absolutely.
card?
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll do that.
Great.
Thank you. Let's go back. Mike, are you?
Yeah, two things. One, we've talked about, as you said, we are looking at value engineering options. We were able to, over the last few months with Kiewit, reduce some pier foundation shafts from 4 to 2 and 6 to 4. We're also looking at some economies in the girders and superstructure design as well. They've also been able to get some additional analysis related to vessel collision, which has reduced some of the loading on the bridge, which has allowed us to do that. We're also continuing to monitor
We're moving the pile caps up. a little
yeah,
bit too.
pile caps, and then the other thing that goes along with vessel collision, the other report is totally left my mind.
The geotechnical.
No. Anyways,
I thought you guys were looking at now getting rid of that inner casing.
they're looking at reducing the steel casing. They're also looking at the wind loading and impacts on it, the vessel collision impacts on it. So they're doing a number of analysis, and this is kind of the design process, right? I mean, we're at an early stage in design. As we get more information, we'll refine the design to take that into account and continue to do that as we progress.
Can you talk a little bit about the steel casing, what it means, what it is, why it's good to get? What flexibilities you have there? In just very layman's terms, what is going on in the engineering of that?
So in the construction of a drilled shaft, you have a steel casing, and the thickness of it kind of depends upon the diameter and the depths and things like that it goes. And so that casing is installed, and it gets installed all the way down to bedrock, wherever that is. And then you remove the material inside the casing and drill out the rock and put a rebar cage and fill that up with concrete. In the early stages of the design process, they really don't take into account the structural stability that casing gives the bridge. They just look at the concrete and rebar as being its own element. And then as we refine the design, we start saying, well, what's the strength of that casing and how much does it give to the bridge structure itself, and start to incorporate that in. And so because of that, and then coupled with the ship impact and refining that, and that kind of minimized a little bit because they were able to do some further studies about actual, what the ship traffic is on the river.
So they've changed their understanding of what impact they need to design to?
Yes. And they've refined it. And because of those things, we were able to go from 6 down to 4 shafts and from 4.
That's a big change, right? And the casings themselves, so the casings do not rust away over time?
Right.
So they'll be there forever, or as long as the bridge is there.
So, but I thought we said we're getting rid of one of the casings. I understood there was an outside casing that you vibrate down X number of feet, and then the drill shaft goes inside of that with a secondary casing.
Permanent casing.
So
and the temporary casing is removed. The temporary casing there is just to protect the fish that's on the outside from whatever's happening on the inside of that temporary casing.
Right.
Kind of like a cofferdam.
Right.
And then as far as I know, that has not been eliminated at this time.
But what you're looking at eliminating is the inside casing.
No, the inside casing, the permanent casing is going to still be there.
Okay.
We're taking that inside casing into account structurally in the.
That's allowed you to go from 4 to 2.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay.
It's like a really big piece of rebar.
And the only thing that you have to do during the in-water work window is the outside casing.
Yes, and so we can just plunk those in, and then,
Then the drilled shaft can be performed anytime during the year.
Yeah. So timing wise, you can imagine that the outside casing could take about a day or 2 to install, while the inside casing and drilled shaft work and rock socket, rebar and concrete could be a week or 2 worth of work.
Right. Okay.
So does that outer steel shell get composited with the pier now? So it's just a container, basically.
Container.
Okay.
So a couple other things that are going on, the geotechnical additional borings. So now that we've got those shafts identified, they'll start to mobilize out this fall to do geotechnical borings at the locations of each one of those shafts. We did borings in 2023, which were kind of general borings just to get a initial picture of what the ground looked like underneath of there. Now that we do these additional borings, they'll do them right at the shaft so that they can get better information to see if there's any variability or differences within the shaft. So as they get that information, they incorporate it in the design. They'll continue to refine the design based on that. So that work will start up here in late October, December, or November timeframe.
We're waiting on a
What they're
permit,
looking at. So
waiting
yeah.
on a permit.
Did you resolve the barge issue?
Not yet, still working on it.
So we'll continue to do that. The other thing is all of these elements are being tracked, so we're going to be capturing these as we migrate the project through 60%. As we talked about before, at 60%, we'll do an upgraded or an update to our overall project cost estimate, where we'll take all of these things into account, bring them all together, and provide an update on the project costs. So we'll be tracking them as we go and monitoring where we're headed. So
That's late next summer.
it'll be around May, June of next year. And then we are also, as we brought up a little earlier, getting ready for the start of 1B. We should be giving Kiewit notice to proceed sometime in the next week. We have a kickoff meeting with them tomorrow in Vancouver, where we're bringing the design task leads in to just get everyone kind of refocused on the project, get everybody introduced to the counterparts on each side, what everybody's roles are, functions on the project, how the project's going to be managed, the SharePoints and doc control and quality processes that we'll be using. So we'll do that kickoff meeting tomorrow and get everybody kind of ramped up. We'll also be establishing and have started to establish the schedules for our task force meetings. Those will be similar to what we did last year, where those will be done on Tuesdays. They'll be every other week or twice a month. And then the progress meetings, which will be the opposite weeks, will be kind of a little higher level management decision-making meeting at a project level for day-to-day decisions that need to keep in order to keep the general designers moving forward. So, and then from that, we'll elevate it to board decisions when we need to. So.
Good. Looking forward to the kickoff.
Yeah, so it's exciting. Everybody's excited.
It's a major milestone for this project.
Everybody's excited to get back into moving forward with the project
and go fast.
Getting ready for Mike to tell us to go faster again. So that's it.
Anything? Thank you. Anything legal report? I don't see any of our lawyers online. That may be a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Government relations. We already kind of talked about that. Partner updates. Anybody online? Federal Highways, WashDOT, ODOT, anybody?
Caroline's on from WashDOT.
Yeah, we're working with the team on their conceptual design for the roundabout on 14. And so we're going through meetings. We'll have our third meeting this week.
Good.
As you know, WashDOT is going to end up owning the roundabout as well as some of the improvements that we're doing on 14. So
are we going to tell it to them?
I think, yeah, I'll let you talk to them about that.
Negotiate again.
Let the notes show that was a joke.
So we've been having those discussions with them because they are going to own it. They've got a little more responsibility within that corridor. We're just making sure we're building it the way they want to see it. And checking those boxes.
That's being coordinated with the
raise grant. Some of that, I mean, the roundabout stuff really wasn't part of the raise grant, but the raise grant stuff is being coordinated with them as well. Roundabout
It's with the pedestrian bicycle path.
It's all being coordinated, yeah, with the roundabout, yeah. So, yeah, they're working on, how WashDOT wants to make sure people get in through the roundabout safely and making sure we have the right stuff there.
Any other partner updates? Let's see. Okay, let's move on. Consent agenda. There's some invoices to approve. Is there any comments on the invoices? Mike, you want to walk us through them real quick?
Yeah, I mean, these are all pretty standard now. You can see Tilly Biller. I really messed that one up. Baker Tilly is on here. That's one of our new consulting services that have been on. So that's maybe one that's new that you haven't seen before. But these have been through the E&C committee, engineering construction committee, as well as budget finance. they recommended that we move forward with approving.
Can I have a motion?
I would offer a motion to approve the consent. Is it consent agenda or is it? It's invoices.
Yeah, let's do the
We'll
invoices
just
first.
do invoices. Payment of September invoices.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next consent agenda item is appointment of Mark to the Funding and Finance Committee. Is there any discussion? If not,
Sounds good to me.
if not, could I have a motion?
Go ahead, Grant.
Move to appoint Mark Flaming to the West Hammond Bridge Authority Funding and Finance Committee.
I would second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, committee reports, funding and finance. Grant.
Ben's gonna take this one.
Okay.
Thanks, Ben.
No problem. So we met twice since the last meeting and covered a bunch of smaller topics. Looked at the infographics and some of the communications that's going for the group to DC. We went through and have talked about kind of messaging and finance implications in our communications. The kind of feedback we got from our federal partners and took that into consideration. Reviewed the WashDOT amendment, the last month's financial report, and our financial projections, the kind of latest updates from BIP and infra and the remaining pieces to get to the full funding timelines for those that we need to hit in order to make the 2027 in-water window. I put in my notes that we need to have we don't have to have a contract in place, but we need to know that we will have the contract by June of 2026. Is that right?
Yeah, in order to make our 2027 construction window, we need to know we have full funding by sometime next summer. In order to get through the step update process, get everything through that approval process, to give us some buffer there to be ready and also to revise any contracts that we need to revise, the owner's rep as well as Kiewit and others, just to be prepared to actually go to construction. Right now, we're just assuming that we're producing a set of plans. And if we get full funding, we'll have to make some adjustments to that to do some early works, just start working on getting a cost estimate from Kiewit and working towards how to move forward to get to construction.
And when in the timeline, oh, sorry.
Okay.
Catherine, go ahead.
When in the timeline is pre-ordering of material?
It would be
How many months roughly?
You gotta order it. We were thinking April timeframe.
Yeah, I'd say April or earlier.
So April for November construction.
Yeah, we'd want to have delivery start probably in October. Yeah.
So I think that's a really good, I don't want to just.
It was really important.
And Catherine's got a comment too, but just, we talk about being able to start construction a lot in October of 27. The reality is to do that, it starts 6 or 8 months before that to really get lined up, ready, planned, material and everything. I've seen it both ways. I think it would be good if we started kind of talking about it in one way. It's easy to say, yeah, you're going to see something in October, but that means that we're 8 months ahead of everybody else, which is fine, except when you're talking to funding. So I hit on something for Grant there.
This is for the future. Here's a case where I think we're going to need an A and a B for construction start. And the A version is we've got lots of money earlier than we expected. And if we really wanted to push forward with design, with construction, what's the logical sequence of ordering material much earlier? Plan B is we get the funding a little later, but we still get it. So you have a construction start, but it's a minimum start. And what I'm thinking is we got to take advantage of that first in-water work window, which means as a minimum, we've got to take that outer casing and get it into place as many piers as we possibly can. We're not going to, maybe that's all we do during that first 4 or 5 months while you guys go design other things and get material ordered, other things ordered that come in after. It's not the optimum schedule, but it's an A and a B, and it all depends on if and when the BIP gets released.
Yeah.
So one of the things we're monitoring obviously is the funding. If we find out we get the funding for construction, we're gonna have to make some adjustments to the project. And that's just.
No question. And
we're thinking about what those are, right? If you get, depending on when it comes, it changes it, depending on how much you get, it changes it. So, I think we're trying to start thinking about those things and getting a plan together for what we.
to me, one of the key drivers is you've got to make that first in-water work window work for you.
So one of the things that's important in that first in-water work window is getting in the temporary access trestle and as much of it as we possibly can. And so you have to have it designed and you have to have it like ordered, and there's going to be some fabrication of it. And I mean, you guys that were out there saw how extensive that can be.
But one of the things, and so people have this in the back of their mind as well. Right now, we have not contracted with Kiewit to do all of the temporary design that they will need to do. We've done a minimum amount because we're heading toward construction. We're trying to be financially responsible of what we're doing. However, the minute we find out we have construction, maybe I need to say this in a more aggressive way. The minute we find out we have construction, there will be a big effort to change the direction of this project. And we will have major amendments, things we have to work through quickly to get them moving in a different direction so that we can make that 27, because then it becomes speed.
In an additional direction.
Yes, to accelerate things and move things faster. So we will.
I think the smarter we get with Kiewit on what are those packages that makes that first in-water work window effective.
And that's one of the things that
we need to get educated on what that is.
One of the things that we've been talking to them about is trying to set up the project so that we can do those early and make sure we're advancing design so that if we have to pull that trigger, we're not going, oh, wait a minute, we didn't think about that. So we're trying to make sure that those things are in place and we're advancing those. Much of the kingdom of the scope we develop to be prepared for that.
Catherine, you had a question.
Yes, sir. It actually was very similar to what Arthur brought up, is when do you actually need to start ordering for the in-water work window and the timeline there? And then is there a cost benefit analysis? It would be beneficial to be using half the in-water work window versus the whole? Like, does that give us 3 months, for funding? And that was sort of the timeline question as well. So thank you.
I mean, I think
there's a whole issue in this whole area about getting federal highway approval to proceed forward.
Correct. And that's
so it's not totally our decision what we can do. We got to conform to their approval.
And that's part of the thing, like I said, and maybe we need to put a list together, maybe that would be better for everyone to put their hands on, is that there are a number of actions that'll have to happen if we get full funding. Federal approval, getting into the STEP, getting the STEP as a state transportation improvement plan. I did that before Arthur asked me. In order to make sure that we're in that plan, that we've gotten through the processes, we can get the right approvals to start. We need to start talking about pre-buying and whether Kiewit needs to go ahead and start buying, because depending on where the economics are, we may want to buy things early and lock in price. So there's a number of things that will change as soon as we know we have full construction.
So I think after this discussion, one of the things that's kind of missing in the topics for our trip next week is really that difference between start construction and, we need to know the money's coming. It doesn't have to be sitting on the desk, but if we know it's coming 8 months before we get it, that is a huge deal, particularly because of our limited window to be able to work with the broker. And I think that
I agree.
we need to figure out how to communicate that too.
Yeah.
And it's probably not everybody on our list, but there's some people that need to know that more than others.
Sure. So they need to know that we know that.
Yeah.
How common are these limited work windows in construction projects, in large infrastructure projects?
On rivers and around sensitive environmental areas, it's fairly common.
It's a pretty well understood thing.
The actual time span, like ours is October to April or whatever, that varies
March.
from project to project. Yeah.
Okay. And so there's another piece. When we get notice that we have the funds going to be available, it's a bunch of changes, a bunch of actions that have to happen. Similarly, there are a bunch of actions that have to happen if we reach a certain date without having notice or without having knowledge that we have funding. And there are, for example, the project is going to be a more expensive project, so we have to start talking about it differently. We have to consider the design in ways that it will sit on a shelf better, right? So we should have lists of both of those.
If you remember when we did the alternatives presentation back this spring, it'll be kind of revamping that.
Right.
We talked a little bit about it, about having different options depending on whether we got state funding, federal funding, how we would go into phase 1B, and we kind of briefly talked about the options for phase 2 as well. But yeah, I think it's going back and refining that to, you have different options based on the construction funding, and we can bring that back up and go through.
Yeah, and I sure don't want to see us spending money on that prematurely.
Yep.
But it would be nice to at least have a list of what the major subjects are that we'll be talking about.
Well, our current approach right now assumes that we're not going to get the construction funds and we're driving to finish design 100%. Now, that's kind of the basic approach right now, but we are positioned where if we do get the funds, we can slam forward and go.
Well, but that's not entirely true because we're talking about a $1.12 billion bridge, which is not what the bridge costs if we don't have funds.
True. What I said there was that if we meet our schedule of the water in October of 27, our number is 1.120.
Right.
Okay. So our approach right now is to get design done. And we're hoping we will have the funds for construction and we keep going and start some other work. If we don't get the construction funds, we've at least got the design 100% complete. We sit it on the shelf. And I agree with you totally. Now we have to go back and figure out what's the schedule going to look like, depending on when we think other funding is going to.
There are additional actions that we have to take, and I want a list of those actions.
Right. And I think it's important to say the reason we're headed down this road is because of the way the funding has come out.
Yes.
So we're optimizing the funding that we have been able to get on our best case moving forward. Obviously, if we get more funding, then everything has to adjust, but we're able to maximize how far we move the project with the funding available now.
But I think there's the thing that the authority needs to prepare for right now is to position itself to leverage all the funding that it has in anticipation of getting the rest of the funding so that they are prepared that if that funding comes, you can go to construction. Because that's, to me, your commitment to everyone else is that you will be ready to go to construction in the timing that you've said that you will, and be able to use that funding. Worst case scenario is you get all the funding and you're like, oh, we didn't think about this. We're not ready. We're going to make sure, and we're kind of putting blinders on, that we're going to be ready to go to construction in 27. If we get all the funding, we will make 27 happen.
Yes.
That's our focus. Other scenarios will happen if we don't get the funding, and we can bring those out. And I think we need to understand them. But I think we need to have a positive focus as a group that we're going to make 27, and that needs to be how we approach the project is that we are going to construction in 27. And we have to work in the manner that prepares us to do that.
We're also keeping our eyes wide open that we know when the BIP 25 kind of should hit, and we know kind of when the 26 should hit. And if either of those hit, then we can keep moving. If neither of those hit, then we're going to have to take another look at an alternate schedule.
I guess
and funding.
I'm not making a really complicated point, but I understand your desire as a design team, as an engineering team, to keep blinders on and to keep focus. And I think that's entirely appropriate. But we're a board of directors and we're not supposed to have blinders on. So that's why I'm bringing up this issue.
It's true, but I think you guys are your best advocates.
Yep.
And if you don't believe this project's going to go to construction in 27, nobody else is. And I think you all need
You're
to
talking about two
believe
different
that
things.
the project's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I agree, you need a backup plan, but I think your focus needs to be making it happen.
Yeah. You want to say something, Grant?
My opinion is that until we know that we are not receiving BIP, my opinion is that we should be acting like we are, and we are building a bridge. That's my opinion of how we should be approaching this project. Until we have a definite, no, we are not, our mentality should be, yes, we are. That's what I think about it.
I agree with you. At the same time, we need to understand that there's this other thing out there that we can't ignore.
There are other possibilities that
So
may happen.
we keep it in the back of our mind and we're thinking about it, but we're grabbing for this.
Right.
I think we're each going to look at it the way we look at it.
Yeah, and that's fine.
I think we're all shades of gray.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that I do think would be helpful to have at the tip of our finger is when we need to receive the BIP award by or in 27 window, like when do we need notice of that award so we can clearly communicate that. And if they're late, like let's say we get the award, we need it in June and we get it in October, like what's the added cost of the project at that point? Like, because that's at the end of the day, it's like we're trying to be as financially responsible as we can be with the money that's been awarded to us and make the best decisions that are going to lead us to build the bridge at most affordable costs as quickly as possible, right? Like that's what everybody's here trying to do. But at the end of the day, like we have to communicate to our funding partners what we need from them and by when in order to meet that schedule. And I think it's really important that we know that and are really clear about that. So if I heard June of 26 is when we need that. If that's not exactly right, let's continue to refine that and sort of true that up so that we can, get all of our contracts in place, make all of our early buys, make all of our and start, when we want to start.
Well, the other thing, Ben, you bring up a good point, is the date. But we got to remember, we've also got to get TIFIA finalized as well. It's not just the BIP, it's TIFIA. Because federal highways won't allow us to go forward, notice to proceed, unless we've got TIFIA locked up too.
Yeah, and TIFIA is going to restart up doing phase 1B. We're getting ready to restart up the investment grade study. We're going to get prepared to have the TIFIA as far as we can take it. They will be the last money in and they will sign last once we have all other funding secured. So that our goal is to prepare to have that ready for signature so that when all the rest of the money comes in, all you got to do is sign TIFIA on it.
So my experience with TIFIA has been that it may be a huge pain in the ass, but it's a very mechanical process.
It is. Yep.
So there's not a lot of question marks there. It's simply they can keep you dragging and dragging and dragging.
Yep. And that's why we want to get it started back up.
Right.
Get investment grade, get everything in line so that whenever you get the rest of the money, you're ready. They're ready and you're ready to sign.
I really like the idea of this, putting down in a checklist critical path in each of the scenarios, because regardless of how we think about it or talk about it, it really comes down to us staying on top of the critical path. Right now, and I agree with Grant, a critical path is, we'd like to believe we're getting funding. We also have to know when we switch critical paths, because maybe it's because I'm the new guy, but it's too hard to keep all this stuff.
It is.
In my head. I really would love to have a checklist.
Yeah,
we'll put that together.
Okay, let's keep moving. Let's go to Engineering Construction Committee. Are you going to do it or Catherine going to do it?
Catherine's going to take us through that.
Hello again, everyone. We had a meeting this past Wednesday and we went through the trend log. And so we're looking at this price of steel and the cost of labor and the cost of cement and really identifying that, which has been very eye-opening. And then comparing that to our escalation, our believed 4% escalation. And I apologize if you can hear our 2-year-old in the back. It's bath time and he just wants me to hold him. So I apologize. We also did the communications check-in and went through that as well. Both Eric and I are going to DC, and so we kind of asked a lot of questions on that, ensuring that we're clear about the messaging. We went through the financial report. We also went into the Kiewit design schedule. We're meeting really with Kiewit and talking through this and making sure that we're all on the same page and moving forward. And that really tied into the phase 1B update. And I'd like to say that Kiewit's been really working. Sorry, guys. Kiewit's been really working to get the invoicing clear and connected so that it's easier for their invoices to get approved. And so we know how much money we have in the bank and where all our money is going. We also went through the bridge monitoring update quite a bit, where the technology is going to be, where the cloud is going to be, who's going to score the data, the security clearances that are needed for that, and that kind of understanding, just so that we as the authority and the engineering committee specifically have an understanding and giving some ideas to make it seamless. So ensuring that the security of the data is secure, but ensuring that we all would have access to the data. And it's our understanding that Kiewit, being a federal contractor in some spaces, has a pretty high security system, so they can't just give away entrance into their security, their data software. So really ensuring that that's clear. And then we went quite in depth on the geotech boring update. I've been submitting all the permits for the different authorities and agencies. And so kind of understanding where the delays are and how that might and might not affect the project, how we can set up the borings. So that although you might not have a permit, you can still get some mobilization done, but not wasting that cost of mobilization, and then better understanding if the in-water work windows affect the borings, because that is our understanding that it doesn't. So that you can do borings outside of that as we have done in the past. So I can go into more detail, Eric, you can fill it in if you have any more information, or Commissioner Fox, but that is my update.
Actually, that's kind of interesting. I thought that the borings had to be done during in-water window. You're saying that they don't?
They have to get approved for a period of work. It doesn't have to align with the biological opinion in water work, but you do have to get an in-water work approval to do the work during the period you define and agree to with the agencies. So it can be a little
There's
bit,
some sensitivity, but it doesn't have to necessarily be the same day.
but it can be a little different. So, that's what we did the whole year. We were able to negotiate during the whole year with them. So in 2023, we had the full year. So we're looking to give ourselves as much flexibility as we can in this one as well. But so, yeah, it's been confusing for the whole group of, those 2 windows you're talking about, but it is different. So.
And the only reason we really talked about it is because I think the Army Corps said that their review, instead of being 90 days, is going to be 120.
Yeah.
Which on that. The edge right off the bat. I will talk about, Catherine wasn't able to come with us, but several of us from the ENC were hosted by James and his team at one of their bridges here in the Northwest on Interstate 205. And for myself, who've been around a lot of heavy construction, it was impressive because it's an order of magnitude scale larger than what I'm accustomed to. And it's pretty big stuff. I think the other thing was just, it is an invasive project or process to just move that much heavy stuff in and out of what is generally a difficult to get to area. And it takes space and barges and cranes, and when you see that inserted into a small kind of residential area in that case, or developed area, it starts to really make a big kind of impact.
In our case, is the expectation that all the steel will be barged in?
I would imagine so, yeah.
So one of the things that was interesting though too, and we all noticed it, there's a boat ramp there. There's houseboats within feet of the construction site. So you can do a major interstate bridge construction project in close proximity to boat ramps and close proximity to residential housing and a lot of boat activity and do it safely. So it was a good example of that as well, that we worry about a lot of that on this project, and rightfully so, we should. But it was a good example of it being done and being done effectively, and that it can be done. So I think it was good to.
We saw several recreational boaters that obviously see the same workmen every day and they wave as they go through underneath
They were
the.
actually doing a little tour themselves, looking at the
They have
equipment.
a full bike ped trail that goes right literally through the middle of the construction site. So a lot of similarities. So it was good to see that, those things can be done.
You give hard hats to the pedestrians? I guess the bikers have their helmets on.
Tell them to walk fast.
Okay.
On the other side of that, we went into their offices and they showed us their scheduling board, their 5-week schedule, which is on conference wall. We were supposed to go back in by 11:30 or so to actually sit through one of the plan of the day meetings, and we were behind schedule a little bit. But we didn't see it in action, but
They're behind schedule, so we missed the schedule.
yeah.
Our own fault.
So that's one thing. Later in the afternoon, we went over to Gunderson Fabrication, which is I didn't know it existed in Portland, but it's a huge fabrication shop. They build tugs, barges, steel for bridges, a lot of the railroad bridges up and down the Columbia, they did. They're fabricating steel for the Abernathy Bridge. They walked us through the shop, showed us their auto welding techniques and their cutting tables and so on. And it's highly automated. Guys are still there to move pieces of equipment up and down the line, but a lot of the welding is all automatic. The cutting of the members is all done with, what are they,
Yeah, or plastic.
plasma cutters, and pre-drilling holes and so on. That's all automated. It is very impressive.
And they have direct access to the Willamette River. To be able to, then they have 2 large whirly cranes that can then load barges directly from their shop on the barges on the water. So
Does the size of the Bonneville Dam locks affect our project?
No.
I don't think so.
We're smaller than that, smaller than the maximum.
I think that they said that you can get something through there that was, what's it, 84 feet wide
84 feet wide and
and 300 feet long. So that should work out.
Smaller than that.
Yeah, we specifically asked them if it was going to be constrained on our job. They said no, that they could get what they need.
We also asked them, what's the market right now on steel, raw steel? And they said it was actually pretty stable. They're not seeing huge increases. They actually saw a little bit of a decrease for the last month or so. And we talked about availability of this particular project with the work that they've got in the shop. And they said anyway, and it doesn't count until you sign on the contract, but of course they said they had capability. So
Lumber market's going down now. Maybe we should use wood.
maybe they'll pay us to have them provide our steel. So anyway, I thought it was a great day, and I sure appreciated Kiewit hosting us and
Yeah, if there's a chance that in the future there's more people that can go or available, the offer's still there. So be great.
it's worth taking a half a day and going to look and seeing what our bridge is going to look like, because it's going to be a busy river out there when we're really going.
Yeah.
And people don't understand what's about to hit them.
Say it that way.
Look at a couple photos. You want to look at a couple photos?
Sure.
we have time to help people understand what's gonna happen. That's the way
better.
we need to be.
That's what you're going to.
So take a look at this one. It's kind of interesting. You see what that girder is sitting on? It's actually a kind of a dolly from a railroad car. And they move it up and down. Now, if you can zoom in on that, what I found interesting there is, and tip up a little bit.
Scroll up.
Now go up.
Sorry, guys.
That's down.
Watch that. Watch your screen.
Clicking away. Click and grab it, pull it down. There you go.
Yeah. Watch.
Okay. So see that horizontal weld at the top of the screen? That's similar to what we would have to do if we have the huge girders that we're initially projecting. And that weld would go almost a mile, which is expensive.
It can help.
Plus, that's a big, heavy sucker to lift up. Even if you do it in 3 pieces. And you can see the stiffeners that they've added there. And all of that welding is done automatically. There's no guys with grinders and welders, and it's all done.
I can stop practicing. I can stop practicing.
Yeah. You won't qualify.
Anything, all the welds, all the holes, everything is drilled automatically now.
The UAQC thing right there.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Let's see, communications, we kind of already talked about that, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're making some plans for a record of decision event. They're also updating some of our social media websites and things with just some of the new information, developing some new graphics based on.
I saw some of the updates that have gone in already on Facebook, and they look pretty good.
They're also working on some new graphics to represent the new, just how we're moving forward, the new funding and stuff that we've got now. So we're updating some of that as well. So
there's also a new interface of Pacific Northwest Energy.
Pinware, I always call them pinware. I forget. I'll find it.
Anyway, Mike, James, and myself have been asked to go host a panel to this outfit in Portland on October the 14th. So we're going to go down and it's about
Northwest Economic Region.
Yeah.
And this was part of a program that came out of USDOT. We were one of their first incubator projects where they assist in Tupelo, but also assist in support for projects and legislative actions for projects. So, we've kind of we were a little ahead of where they really helped with Tupelo on our project, but we were part of their program and one of the more advanced projects through. So they've always kind of kept an eye on this project and kind of where it's been headed. So.
And they have a lot of congressional delegations that are invited to this thing. So we'll go down and do that. Another picture of the shop. And this is about, I'm guessing about halfway down the line. So it goes, basically, if you turn around and go the other way, it's about the same distance to the end of the building.
So remind me, what's the length of the steel spans we're talking about?
Between 400 and 500 feet long spans. So we could get pieces as long as, 150, 200 foot long pieces.
And then those would be bolted
And
in.
then the cross section of our bridge is 4 girders.
Right.
So we would like to get the girders paired up together. They're much more stable when they're 2 of them together, like a pontoon boat, if you will. And so preferably if they could be bolted up and put on a barge, and then we could just two crane lift them up
together
in place. That'd be pretty efficient for us.
Okay. So 150 feet long.
So these girders here are about 8 foot deep. Ours would be 20 foot deep. We were joking that they're going to need to modify their facility a little bit to handle our girders, but basically they starting at one end, they start drilling the plates and stuff like that. And it's almost an assembly line as it goes on through. And in this case, these girders get coated with paint. So there's actually a paint shop down at the end that they paint these and then they come out. So we started down on one end and then walked all the way through. And that's when you saw that one girder standing up. It just come out of the paint shop.
And the surface that we're talking about, I forget what the name is, but is that something that they can apply there? It's
our steel is going to be a weathering steel.
Right. So the weathering steel, isn't that a surface treatment?
It comes from the factory like that, and it just builds a very thin coat of rust that is sacrificial.
Right. I thought that the way that they made it though was involved a surface process. It's the steel all the way through. If you cut the steel, the middle works the same as the outside.
Correct.
And it actually builds up over time after you install it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of still is building up that coating even after they install it.
Right. No, I understand that. I thought I've read up on it when we first started talking about it. I thought that there's something about a surface process, but I probably just misunderstood.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's move on. New business, action items.
Yeah, let's go back to, is Debbie still on?
You know the key.
Okay. Are you covering this one or no?
Well, she's there.
I thought she was on.
She came off you.
Debbie, are you there?
Yeah. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because I'm not sure. I'm not good with Zoom. I'm always, oh, here we go. I found my button that I was looking for. Yes, I'm here. So I've been talking with the OTIB people, and basically they're wanting to close out that loan, and we pretty much do need to close out the loan for two. Primarily, it was only good until December, but we really need to just go ahead and close it out now because we had pledged lottery funds to repay it, and we have the lottery funds. So it's really gone past its life at this point. We can, if we do want to look at an OTIB loan again, we could look at one again in the future. They're limited to $5 million, so I don't know that they would be all that helpful for us anyway. We didn't end up using this one. There was supposed to be a $50,000 fee, but they dropped it down to $7,500 since we never drew on it and didn't use it. So we're recommending that we just go ahead and close this out. And then if we decide for some reason that we do want one in the future, we can resubmit.
Another good example of having a plan B in case plan A didn't work. And plan A worked. So any further discussion on this? If not, I think this is a motion. Could I have a motion to cancel? Close out?
I move to approve, authorize the close of loan OTIF-0077 with the Oregon Transportation Infrastructure Bank, OTIB, and to pay the associated $7,500 loan fee.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Informational items. We already talked about the rod.
We talked about key messages.
Yep, we did. We were already talking about BIP and infra. How about the August financial report? I think there's some good news. We get our loan, our funding balance is now 7.3.
7.3 or 7.5? 7.3. Somewhere 7.5.
So 7.3. Yeah. So we gained about 300,000 in a month.
Yes.
If I remember right. That's good.
Almost more than you're getting out of tolls.
I'm sorry, so that was because of interest, or what was that? Was that
that was total for the month, 315.
But was it because of an increase in traffic from what we've been seeing?
There was a slight increase.
Okay.
Yeah, it's summer, and so our tolls always go up in the summer. And I think that when we get to September, it will also be a bit higher than we were expecting, just because we're getting caught up on our image reviews. We actually at this point are caught up on them, but it does take there's some lag time in there. We have to get the invoices sent out, and then people have to pay us. So so September should be a pretty good month as well, because we are caught up now on our image reviews. So yeah, it increased by $314,000, which included actually a little more than that. Anyway, it included some interest. Our interest has stayed higher than we had originally forecast, and so for better or for worse, that also means that inflation hasn't come down as much as we had hoped either. But anyway, we are increasing it between, I think you can pretty much count on $250,000 to $300,000 a month going into that account now.
Good, good. Other comments about the financials? Okay, with that, upcoming action items, anything you want to mention, Mike?
No, just again, remind you that we're gonna have some sessions with you on right away. There's a couple policies that'll be coming back to you in the next few months related to federal policy. So we'll get those out in front of you. Good.
Go around the room. Any T?
The other thing is with HRWSBA, ODOT and Waxaw agreed to take this in their cost and direct cost for the expense. So the MOU is gonna be circulated for every agencies all signed. Once it's coming back to us.
Everybody understand what that ramification really is. We're a single project office. So everything that we do is to the benefit of the bridge. So everything we do can be charged back against the project, against our grants, which is good news.
Really good news.
Now, eventually, as we get closer to opening of the new bridge, we're going to have to make a modification to that, but that's down the road a ways. Any other comments from anybody before we close? With that, Debbie, do you have your hand up?
No, it's
okay. Well, that's a cursor. Okay. Okay, with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.